Hi, I'm Michael Allison, Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and welcome to another episode of Roma Talks, where I meet people from across the property ecosystem and some of our Roma colleagues as well. And today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Sam Williamson. Hi, Sam.
Hey. Hi, Michael.
Making your podcast debut.
Absolutely, yes. I've been putting this off for a very, very long time. And yes, I've succumbed.
But you're a big supporter of podcasts as well,
I
aren't
am.
you?
I always watch it, yes. Don't ask me what my favourite is, though.
No. Was it the one with me in?
Of course.
Oh, there we go then. No, but obviously, I think you obviously look at a lot of educational material as well, podcasts of other lenders and brokers, etc. So really interesting. I'm thrilled that you're on with us today.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, I know you very well. We work closely. Certainly, we've worked very close over the last couple of years, 2.5 years together.
Indeed, yeah.
So, but for those who don't know, give us a bit about yourself.
Oh my goodness. Where do I start? So originally I am from the Midlands, although I have been in Manchester 30 years, can you believe?
Wow.
So actually I'm more Manc than I am Black Country, which seems a bit weird to say that, but anyway. Grew up in the Midlands. Parents had a pub. We were tenants. My dad was a bricklayer. And up until leaving school, we lived there. Then I went to college and then uni. Moved to Leicester. Had 5 years in Leicester. Studied law. I did law and accountancy. I did a combined studies degree because I just like having multiple sort of subjects rather than just having one. So I did that, and then I did a postgrad in legal practice. The intention was to go into law, but I couldn't get a training contract. So I thought, right, okay, what else can I use, with all these skills and knowledge? So I went into banking, and I started with Northern Rock, of all places, on the counter doing resi mortgages. And then literally within a few months, I'd applied for an assistant in commercial mortgages in Manchester. Never been to Manchester in my life. Went for the interview, got halfway home, back to Leicester, and I was offered the job. Just told my husband at the time, right, because I was newly married, and right, I'm accepting it, and we're moving to Manchester. So he followed me, basically. So I had about 6-7 years with Northern Rock, doing commercial mortgages. I was their first female regional manager and also the youngest manager. So really enjoyed that. That was, sort of investment properties, trading businesses. That was back in the times when you could have funding lines, like the original funding lines for properties. Then I decided to go into sort of more traditional banking. Having said that, it was a bit of a shock, really, I have to say. I'm not suited to the big banks, the big corporates. It's just they're too inflexible. I was sort of spoilt really with having Northern Rock as my first job, because I can't even remember having application forms or doing money laundering checks and all that sort of stuff back then.
Just remind me what happened to Northern Rock, if you can, at any point.
I left before that happened. But yeah, it's just really difficult to do anything in the big sort of corporates. So I had a stint at NatWest, I had a stint at Barclays, real estate, development finance. I've done broking about 4 times over the years as well. So I've seen that side of it. I've worked for a peer-to-peer lender. That again wasn't really what I thought it would be. Worked for another bridging company. And then I actually spotted that I'd actually met Scott and Dan when they were in that little tiny office, in the back of that cupboard. And that was when I was broking. And I spotted on LinkedIn that somebody had left, one of the underwriters. And so I just messaged him. I said, are you looking for anybody? And he just called me in. I had about a 2-hour chat with him and Lorraine, and he offered me a job. And that was like 7 years ago.
Wow.
And so I came in as senior underwriter. And yeah, the rest is history, really. So.
Has it changed much over the last 7 years, do you think?
It has. I mean, when I joined, we had the office downstairs. It was a small office. There was about just over 20. There was 20 odd people, I think, back then. very few funding lines, didn't have all the products that we have now. It's pretty much just vanilla type bridging. There was a bit of refurb development type stuff done, but there wasn't a dedicated funding line. We didn't do it properly, shall we say. And then obviously we've grown, we've got development finance, we've got the revolving credit facility, we've got the term loans, all those sorts of things. All the AVMs, title insurance. We've got 71 staff now, and obviously much bigger premises. We've outgrown the office as well. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes, and obviously more. Funding lines, got more funding lines, and obviously capacity to do more lending. So yeah, it's changed massively, really.
And have you seen lending change as a whole? Have you seen the market get more competitive and change during that time?
I think it always goes through phases. I mean, it did when I was in commercial mortgages. It was the same. You get somebody come out really aggressive, and then of course people feel they've got to follow suit and things. I've always worked for lenders who don't necessarily compete on price. I worked at Santander. It was Abbey commercial. They were the same, very much broker market, and they were sort of there or thereabouts on pricing. Northern Rock was the same. People didn't really know that they did commercial lending, and I think sort of initially it was the same with Roma, because it was a small business. Obviously we've grown now, and now people want to come and work for us, because we've got a good reputation, and we've won loads of awards and things like that. So I think people realise now that we're here for the long run.
Yep.
We've been here through COVID. I mean, I wasn't furloughed through COVID. We carried on lending through COVID, and we're here for the long term, aren't we? And I think because obviously the market goes through cycles as well. It's when things aren't going quite to plan. I think that's the true test of a lender, and I think people remember when they've been, if they've been helped through those periods, or they remember the lenders who are like, right, literally, your loan's expired, right, we're repossessing, or you're on a default rate, or those types of how they're treated. So yeah, I think as long as you got you lend well, you treat people right, and you're there or thereabouts in the pricing, I think we'll sort of stay the course. Do you know what I mean? Others, might come in and out of the market, but we're consistent.
Consistency is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting, your role's actually evolved a little bit as well at Roma, hasn't it, since you joined? So you were Senior Underwriter.
Yeah.
And then, so
I had that for about 3 years, and then, it was quite a small team then. I think there was about 4 of us, wasn't there? And Lorraine obviously is head of underwriting. Back then, it was really difficult to recruit, get underwriters who were experienced enough, really, and who would come to obviously a smaller lender. Basically, your underwriters had to know everything, all of the sectors. They couldn't just specialise in, just standard bridging or just development finance. They needed to be able to do all of it, and that's really hard to find people with that sort of experience. But I think we had Jack obviously was a graduate at the time, and he sort of sat next to me and asked loads of questions constantly, and so he got to a stage where he was confident. He knew what he was doing, and I think we'd perhaps just started to recruit some others as well. And I thought, right, I feel like we're doing more development finance then as well, and heavy refurb and things like that. And I thought, I want to do something different. There was a bit of a lack of, we were seeing more direct business, and a lot of those needed, although they're very good at what they do in terms of building, they don't know the finance side, and they need that hand holding. And obviously my background had been in relationship management, sort of within the bank. And I just thought, I think there's a need for this, because this is what's gone from the mainstream lenders. And I think there's a place for it, even in our space. And so I'd actually took some advice from one of the girls in HR and said, I want to pitch this as an idea to Scott. How do you recommend I do it? So she gave me a bit of advice. And literally just sat there in front of Lorraine and Scott and said, right, I think, I want to do this. What do you think? As relationship manager. I said, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. It took 6 months before I could come over to do that because obviously we need to make sure underwriting were okay. With me stepping away. But yeah, it was, literally sort of within that first year of doing that, sort of literally, the amount of direct business that we took on, and those relationships are still there. They continue, people keep coming back. And I think we sort of proved that there was a need for that. You're always going to have the broker side, which is great. And that's obviously the bulk of our business. But I think to have that direct business as well, so I've sort of did that for until sort of the start of this year, early on this year, wasn't it? So I had a couple of months off, had a bit of a break, and then came back in part-time for a period, more in the sort of training role, sort of mentoring, training, education, and also just been working with sort of the senior team as well, haven't I, sort of in terms of looking at new opportunities. So that's been quite exciting. That's something new to me that I've not done before. So
I think it's really, listen, it's great for us to have someone with so much knowledge, but also that passion to pass the knowledge on within the business. That's one thing.
I do get a bit excited about some of these.
Oh, this is good. Yeah. We know that some colleagues look for what days you're in the office and they tie their working days in.
Yeah, that's been nice actually, because I think when we had our Roma Day, I hadn't realised until it was put there in black and white how many people we have under, was it under 35 or 30 or something? And it was like 50%, I think, of the staff.
Under
and it was
35.
like, I was like really shocked. It did make me feel old, I have to say, but I was really surprised. But particularly the office based, the telephone team, sales team, they're so keen to learn, which is lovely because like I say, they'll purposely, like Vicky will purposely come and sit next to me. She always wants to sit next to me because she can constantly ask me questions. Jay does. Kerry, whenever something comes out, she's straight on email to me. Can you do a training session with my team? So like for instance, we're seeing a lot of share purchase, company share purchases, and we have done some of those.
Luckily, you did one 6 years ago or something.
5 years ago during COVID, purchase of a gym of all things. And then, of course, there was lockdown, so the gyms couldn't open. It's like, I'd forgotten about that. But, it's interesting. It's things that you wouldn't typically expect to see in our space. It's sort of things that you'd think from, commercial banking, from those days. So it's nice to sort of get involved with things like that, But yeah, it's nice when you get that feedback from people and they're actually asking you to do certain, training.
I think in a business, we're a business that runs fast. We've run faster than I've been with us for 4.5 years. And when you think about the growth we've done just during my time, not yours as well, it's continually growing fast. And sometimes you have to make sure that as you run fast, you take the time for learning and development. Yeah. And L&D can be two things. We can bring people in to do courses on sales. That's great. We're actually real life examples where somebody can take time to coach and develop. It's been invaluable really for us this year, what you've done.
I think as well, it's things like, obviously sort of particularly on the sales side, there's a lot of networking events and there's a lot of free webinars as well nowadays. You love a webinar, don't you? I do. Well, only because I just think it's really important to keep up to date with what people are, so what education is out there. Some of the education, is not so great, I have to say, but some of the things out there, they're just different strategies. And I think as a lender, we need to understand what people are trying to do, and try and understand what they're doing, rather than just dismiss it, as if because you just don't understand it. Is it actually taking the time to understand what it is they're trying to do, and the rationale for it? And it's because this is you're seeing, it's like, you might get title split stuff. You see a lot of that, in the training stuff, commercial conversions. Auction trading, there's all these types of strategies that you're seeing out there. So I think you just have to keep on top of it.
Yeah.
and share that knowledge with your colleagues if they're not necessarily going to those networking events as well.
And you do share a lot because obviously you're regularly on LinkedIn.
I am.
And then you set
It's really the only thing. I mean, I tried a little bit on Instagram, but I just can't be bothered to post half the time. But I do like LinkedIn. Yeah.
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 So you're a regular poster, but obviously you're very highly regarded as well in that ecosystem that we operate in with different providers. I'm sure that we'll have a lot of views of this one because you're on it, and you built a really strong network, which is testament to yourself. But that's not just because of what you do and how you do it. You also do it as well, don't you? A bit of property. So
I do.
So you do talk from experience. So.
I do. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, not to necessarily the extent that others have. I mean, I'm probably a little bit sort of unique. Sort of unique. I think I am. I don't know. In terms of, so obviously my dad was a bricklayer.
Yeah.
You know, I've come from sort of, working class background. I've seen. I mean, obviously, I was in the 70s and 80s. My dad ended up having to work in Germany because he had no work. He virtually lost everything. So I've seen him as well having mental health issues, and I've seen all of those things that can happen. So I have a lot of empathy for this way. I like dealing with the trades.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily great, I suppose, from a business point of view, if things aren't going right, but, because obviously, I find it difficult sort of sometimes dealing with it because obviously I can see the impact it has on them. But I suppose it was probably inevitable that I got involved with property. My husband's, a builder by background, and he's now doing health and safety consultancy. But so, yeah, I mean, I sort of became an accidental landlord when I moved in with my husband because I rented my house out. I hate the phrase accidental landlord though because it's like I intentionally let it out.
Yeah.
It wasn't an accident. I did actually decide.
Who are you?
Do you know what I mean? But anyway, so I had that for a number of years, and then about 10 years. Just over 10 years ago was when I decided I thought, all right, I'll do a property flip. He's probably watching too many Homes Under the Hammer or whatever, I don't know. I thought, right, I'm going to do this. So it was just a local one, just needed a complete refurb, and did that. Sold it off market. Somebody knocked on the door while we were doing the work, shook hands on it, and it was all, I think it was done within 4 months. And sold. It was so quick.
Bought, renovated, sold within 4 months.
I made a profit on the first one.
Yeah.
Only a small, it's only a little, cheap house or whatever, but made a profit, so that was good. And then, so we've basically probably done about 2 or 3 sort of over the years. There've been flips, and then I've refurbed and retained and did buy-to-lets basically, 2 and 3 bed houses. Just local, built it up to about 7 in the portfolio. Did buy one last year as a pre-auction, fire damage one. That was going to be retained as well, but then I've changed strategy, so that's sold. Just waiting on it to actually complete any day now. And I actually sold earlier this year another one on buy-to-lets that came empty, my very first one. So yeah, and I self-manage as well, although I think that's going to change going forward. Certainly with one of them, that's definitely changing, but I suspect the other ones might go the same way. I might put those under management as well. But I couldn't do it full time. I know a lot of people do, but I love what I do as a day job, So it was always there as it was going to be sort of like as part of a pension. It was like, well, you never know. By the time I get to retirement age, we might not even have state pensions and whatever. And you never know what the governments are going to do and whatever. So it's like, right, okay, let's have another fallback position or something else just in case. So yeah. So I just do a bit. I've not done any ground up. I've not done commercial conversions. I think at the minute it's basically I don't know. There's so many strategies out there that it's a bit sort of like there's overload, and it's like, and then you sort of in paralysis because it's like, oh God, what do I want to do? I like the auction trading bit. I like the sound of that. Yeah, I might do. I might do. I don't know. I quite like the sound of the commercial stuff as well. Sort of looking at that. But yeah, but I'm saying I'm not in a rush. I just, it's got to be right, and the numbers have got to be right as well. So.
But even through all that, if you think about it, you were surrounded by property, hands-on.
Yeah.
Your dad as a bricklayer.
Yeah.
You've seen the struggles that people in the trades can go through.
Yeah.
But then you've also done flips and you've done retained, you managed tenants. So when, I guess, you were in that RM role, senior RM, having that lens wasn't, and also you've done banking and all that, but having that lens did make it a unique proposition. Really did make it unique.
I think so. And I always thought I wasn't cut out for sales, because to me sales is like this hard sell and everything, and I'm not like that. No. Because I just sort of think, well, I wouldn't like that to be done to me, sort of thing. But I think you can do it, but as a relationship.
Yep.
And you're adding value, and it's like we always say, I know it sort of sounds a bit cliche about partnerships, but it really is, because I want them to do well. Obviously we've got to make money, at the end of the day they pay my wages, but I wouldn't ever want to get them into something they're going to struggle to get out of. Or if I don't think, things that we see go wrong at the back end, I always use that information when I'm then discussing new cases. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, maybe we need to have a longer period, or have you thought about this, or what if this happens, or, and just have those open conversations right at the start. And I think the majority of people welcome that.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to hear it, and that's fine. It's like, well, we're probably not the lender for you then, but, I think it's in terms of sitting on my conscience is clear. If I've had that conversation, then I'm happy.
But I think ultimately sales is sales, but people buy people.
Yeah.
And then
I think they do.
I think it's then important that you find a business that's aligned to your values, which I think you have with Roma, and certainly I have as well with Roma. So if the business is aligned to your values, then you feel confident and comfortable bringing customers into that into that realm, rather than bring them in knowing that there's going to be a few pitfalls, but you'll be on to the next one so they can't ring you.
Yeah.
It's a completely different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I've been here as long as I have. I went through a phase when I used to really worry about, oh my God, if somebody sees my CV and sees how many jobs I've been here, there and everywhere. And actually somebody said no. He said, because it shows that you're not necessarily going to have, if I'd have had 30 years in, High Street Bank, you're very blinkered then. You don't know anything else that's out there. But I'm very much like, if the values aren't there, or the way they treat customers, or, if they're not aligned, literally I'll just find something else.
Yep.
It just doesn't sit well with me. So, but I say Roma's really, it's quite a breath of fresh air, really. It
was quite nice. We had a colleague day last week, and we had the panel of people in, and we were talking.
Yeah, it was good though.
And just to see how open we are, it's really, we're in a strong position. Obviously, we've got, as you know, you're working with us on some future plans on proposition and products that we'll be able to probably have you back on to talk about in the future.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, but I think that's it. We're always trying to constantly evolve.
Yeah.
Me and you, we were in Birmingham once at a conference about commercial into residential, and that's become massive since then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we found the time to go to it, so I think it's all key. What advice would you have for any, you mentioned before you were the youngest and the first female at Northern Rock to be a relationship manager. As you see we are seeing more females. We've got more females at Roma than males.
I know.
As you would have seen on that graphic, I think it's 54 versus 46.
Yeah.
What advice would you have to any female looking to get into finance and property, based on your 30 years of experience?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think I've been very fortunate, maybe, because I've not really ever felt I don't know. I've always felt as if I've been respected and heard, and I don't feel as if I've ever been held back. I don't know whether that's just pure luck in terms of like with my first job, sort of they were just, it was the leadership was just, I don't know, they were just very, very supportive, and just, and they gave me an opportunity. I think that's what I think it's, if you're given an opportunity, is take it. Even if you realise, well, actually it's not for me, but at least you've tried and you've done it. And the thing is, if they've obviously seen something in you, so it's like, well, so yeah, give it a go. And so I've not had anybody be disrespectful. I've not had people swearing on the phone at me or anything. Not that I'd put up with it, to be fair. So maybe they just wouldn't dare. But no, and it's just surround yourself by positive people. There's so many people that are sort of, well, they can drain you just because they always look at the negatives of everything. So try to avoid people like that, and just be like a sponge, and anybody who's got any experience or knowledge, or who will because people in property, I find that people are really generous with their knowledge and their time and their experience, particularly at networking events and things like that, and the shows and things like that. They genuinely seem really nice people, and do like to share. So just go for it. It's like, and it's never as bad as you think it might be. It really isn't.
I think what's interesting, you were saying before, you always pick to stay at the places based on culture. So it's finding the culture that's right for you, I guess, as well.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, if you have got experience in finance, there are lots of jobs out there, and you will find something that fits. I mean, again, some of the decisions I've made with career-wise have been purely down to family, and when kids were younger, and and it's, you can't be traipsing up and down the country, do you know what I mean, at the drop of a hat, or thinking, I'll just go for a meeting here or a networking event here. I mean, things that are in the evening, things that are at the weekends, so I could well have been, could have had a bar, higher role or whatever somewhere if I'd wanted to, but I've chosen not to. And also I sort of go through every now and again, I'll go through it. It's like, right, okay, what do I actually enjoy doing? What is the bits that I like? Is there a job out there that fits all of that? And I've done that from time to time, and don't be afraid to do that. You're a long time at work, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
so you've got to be. Hopefully, you've got to try and do something you enjoy doing.
You do. You either live to work or work to live.
I think I always said the time that you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I don't want to go to work. That's the time you should be thinking, right? Do I need to look for something else?
or to do a proposal about how to change your job role.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, don't be afraid to do that. I mean, that was the first time I've ever done that. But I say I did take advice on how to pitch it, and it's obviously worked. They obviously knew him very well. So
then evolving it again as we are now, and potentially evolving it again in the future. I think it's about finding that place where we trusted and respected that people will continue to work with you.
Yeah. I'd say that's the best thing with Roma is that, as we've grown, particularly as we've grown, because obviously there are more opportunities now that if people do want to try and sort of go into a different department or slightly different role, potentially there's more opportunity to do that. And as a company, it will be supported. Yeah, they're very supportive in doing things like that. And then of course we've got all the sort of the qualifications as well. Yeah. That we sort of support people with. So yeah, it's it's a great place to work. So.
Excellent. Well, I could carry on forever.
Me too.
We normally do, and we probably will do after this. But listen, I'll have to bring this one to a close. But Sam, thanks very much for joining us today. And thanks for this being your first one.
I know.
Now you're open. Everyone will be on the phone. So I look forward to watching
I
you
know,
elsewhere
yeah.
as well.
Oh, not a woman's one about menopause, please. Yeah, property and menopause. Yeah.
Well, maybe, who knows?
Next
Okay.
pitch.
And on that note,
And on that note, yeah.
thanks everyone else for watching. Thank you. Goodbye.